architecture, navigation, and astronomy. Trigonometry finds practical use in our everyday lives. Today we have an intriguing question for you. Cosinus x plus pi over 4 equals 1 over square root of 3. On the other hand, n times cosinus x minus sinus x minus 3 square root of 6 times sinus 2x equals square root of 6. The question is asking us to find the value of m. If you believe you can solve the question, feel free to pause the video and check whether your solution is correct. Trigonometry is not a difficult subject. Despite its imposing name, it is a rewarding mathematical branch. Trigonometry is fundamental in mathematics, offering immense practical value. However, it does present its own challenges. To feel confident in tackling these challenges, consider preparing yourself in the following areas. Practice to build a solid mathematical foundation. Develop the ability to visualize and conceptualize geometric relationships. Gain a deep understanding of the complexity of trigonometric problems. For solving the question, we should know some fundamental formulas in advance. Cosinus a plus b equals cosinus a cosinus b minus sinus a sinus b. Cosinus a minus b equals cosinus a cosinus b plus sinus a sinus b. If you pay attention, when we want to add or subtract the cosinus of two angles, we can interchange the positive and negative signs. Similarly, we have addition and subtraction rules for sine. Sinus a plus b equals sinus a cosinus b plus cosinus a sinus b. We apply the same rule in this case too. And sinus squared plus cosinus squared equals 1. As we know this formula, we simply substitute b with a, and we arrive at this fundamental equation: cosinus 2a equals cosinus squared a minus sinus squared a. We know this formula as well, so we substitute b with a, leading to this fundamental equation: sinus 2a equals 2 sinus a cosinus a. These three equations are sufficient to solve the question. Here's an example. We chose a and b to both equal pi over 4. After simplifying, we arrived at this result. As we know, sinus and cosinus of p over 4 equals square root of 2 over 2. Let's substitute them into the equation. Finally, we reached this result. And we know that cosinus of p over 2 equals 0. The next example is related to the second equation. We substitute a with pi over 4. As before, we know that cosinus and sinus of p over 4 is square root of 2 over 2. Let's substitute them into the equation. Yes, we find that sinus of p over 2 is 1. We have known this before. The last example pertains to the last equation. Sinus squared pi over 4 plus cosinus squared pi over 4 is. Let's substitute cosinus and sinus of pi over 4 into the equation. We arrive at 1. So we can say sinus squared plus cosinus squared equals 1. That's it. I have presented you with the important concepts needed to solve today's question once again. Okay, let's take a breath. Let's dive into solving today's question. From the question, we have this equation. First, let's focus on the left side of the equation. As we've learned from the materials, we can simply substitute x and p over 4 in place of a and b, respectively. We already know that sinus and cosinus of p over 4 are both equal to square root of 2 over 2. Let's substitute these values in. We obtain this equation. Now let's use factorization to break down square root of 2 over 2. It's time to simplify the left side so that it equals the right side of the equation. Finally, we reach the result. Cosinus x minus sinus x equals 2 over square root of 6. Next, let's square both sides of the equation. We're using a well-known algebraic identity here. If you're unfamiliar with these identities, don't worry. We've covered this topic in another video. Continuing on, we substitute cosinus x and sinus x for a and b, respectively. After squaring both sides, we arrive at this equation. As we've learned from our materials, sinus squared plus cosinus squared equals 1. Let's substitute this into the equation. By simplifying, we get 2 sinus x cosinus x equals 1 over 3. We already knew this from our materials. So sinus 2x equals 1 over 3. In the question, we find out that we can utilize these two results we've obtained earlier. Let's substitute them in. After simplification, we reach the conclusion that m equals 3 times square root of 6 plus 3. Finally, it appears that we've finished solving today's question. Did you solve it correctly? I hope I've been able to change your perspective on trigonometry. I hope you enjoyed it. See you next time.